Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. As reported by Inner City Press, what happens when the man hired to protect your secrets becomes the one who exposes them all? What drove a trusted security professional with unprecedented access to risk everything and turn against one of music's most powerful figures? And why did his testimony cause Diddy's legal team to immediately request a mistrial, while 3 jurors visibly recoiled at evidence presented on a private monitor in a federal courtroom where Sean Diddy Combs faces serious charges? Michael Ramirez made an unexpected appearance, not as an anonymous witness, but as a head of Diddy's personal security detail for over 2 decades, a man who spent 22 years in the shadows observing, recording, and, according to his testimony, gradually documenting a pattern of behavior that left him increasingly disturbed. A professional who claims he was hired to protect, but ultimately felt compelled to expose. And then a bombshell: Ramirez didn't arrive empty-handed. He brought with him what prosecutors described as extensive documentation spanning nearly 20 years, security logs, access records, and most damaging of all, video footage that was never supposed to leave Diddy's properties. Was this the act of a disgruntled employee seeking revenge, or the final breaking point of a man who could no longer remain silent about what he had witnessed? Why would a career security professional with an impeccable military background risk legal repercussions by allegedly removing confidential materials? And what could be so disturbing on those recordings that it reportedly caused veteran federal prosecutors to establish a special task force solely to analyze the contents? This isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's an unprecedented breach of the carefully constructed walls that have allegedly protected certain entertainment industry practices for decades. The complete story, without filters, begins with Ramirez's testimony, and what he's revealed may permanently alter how we understand the intersection of power, wealth, and accountability in entertainment. If you're following this developing story, make sure to like and subscribe for continuing updates as this extraordinary case unfolds. The revelations from today's testimony are sending shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. I'm standing outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where Michael Ramirez has just completed nearly 6 hours of testimony in the ongoing trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Moments ago, Ramirez exited through a secure doorway, escorted by U.S. Marshals, his expression resolute despite the weight of what he had just shared in court. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was unlike anything veteran legal observers had previously witnessed. Ramirez, a former Navy SEAL who transitioned to private security in the early 2000s, presented a striking contrast to typical witnesses dressed in a conservative dark suit with military precision haircut. His demeanor was professional and measured, more reminiscent of expert testimony than an emotional whistleblower. The morning began with heightened security protocols. Additional marshals were stationed throughout the courtroom, and unusual screening procedures were implemented for all attendees. The prosecution had requested and received approval for special evidence handling, including private monitors visible only to the judge, jury, and essential court personnel for certain materials. Diddy, who had maintained a composed facade throughout previous proceedings, appeared visibly tense as Ramirez was sworn in. Legal observers noted how Diddy leaned towards attorneys, engaged in urgent whispered consultation as Ramirez took a position on the witness stand. As Ramirez was sworn in, his voice was clear and unwavering. The combat veteran and security professional maintained direct eye contact with the prosecutor. His responses precise and methodical. The typical nervous mannerisms or hesitation often seen in witnesses were notably absent, replaced by what appeared to be resolute professional detachment. Mr. Ramirez, the prosecutor began, could you please explain for the court your professional relationship with the defendant, Sean Combs? What followed was a detailed account of how Ramirez, after distinguished military service, including multiple combat deployments, joined Diddy's security team in 2001 as part of an enhanced protection strategy following high-profile industry incidents. He described his rapid rise through the security hierarchy based on his expertise, eventually becoming head of personal security operations across all of Diddy's properties. My role evolved beyond standard protective services. Ramirez testified, I became responsible for implementing and managing comprehensive security protocols, including electronic surveillance systems, personnel vetting, and what Mr. Combs referred to as information management. Why would Ramirez, who had built a lucrative career in celebrity security with access to elite circles, risk professional suicide by turning against his employer? What could have prompted such a dramatic reversal from protector to prosecution witness? And how might his intimate Knowledge of security systems designed to keep secrets impact not just this case, but potentially other figures in the entertainment industry. The story begins in the early 2000s when Ramirez, fresh from military service, entered the specialized world of high-profile security, bringing tactical expertise to an environment where discretion and loyalty were valued above all else. Ramirez testified that his initial security role was primarily focused on physical protection and standard threat assessment. However, as Diddy's empire expanded across music, fashion, and other ventures, the security operation grew increasingly sophisticated. By 2003, I was overseeing a team of 12 full-time security personnel across multiple properties. Ramirez explained. Mr. Combs was extremely particular about security protocols. Unlike other clients I had worked with who were primarily concerned with physical safety, he was equally focused on what he called privacy maintenance, controlling information, monitoring specific individuals, and creating environments where he could operate without external scrutiny. According to Ramirez's emphasis on privacy initially seemed reasonable given Diddy's celebrity status and business profile. The security team implemented advanced systems for visitor management, communication monitoring, and property surveillance that exceeded typical celebrity protection standards but remained within professional parameters. The transition happened gradually. Ramirez testified what began as legitimate security concerns evolved into something more comprehensive. By 2005, I was being tasked with installing surveillance equipment in areas where standard security monitoring wouldn't normally be implemented: private meeting rooms, guest suites, even certain bathrooms, and changing areas. Ramirez described how these requests were typically framed as necessary precautions against potential legal liability or business espionage. Diddy allegedly expressed concerns about individuals who might make false claims after visiting his properties or business associates who might misrepresent private conversations. He portrayed it as protective surveillance. Ramirez stated the narrative was always about protecting himself from false accusations or business betrayals given high-profile incidents involving other celebrities. At the time, this had a surface-level plausibility that made it difficult to question. According to Ramirez, a critical shift occurred around 2007. When he was directed to create a separate, more sophisticated surveillance system that operated independently from the main security infrastructure. The secondary system, which Ramirez testified was known internally as the Archive, featured higher resolution cameras, enhanced audio capabilities, and crucially was accessible only to Diddy and a small number of specifically designated individuals. The technical specifications for this system were excessive for standard security purposes. Ramirez explained, we were instructed to ensure these cameras were virtually undetectable using technology typically reserved for government applications. The feeds were routed to secure server infrastructure with encryption levels that frankly exceeded what would be reasonable for celebrity privacy concerns. Ramirez testified that his military background and security expertise made him increasingly uncomfortable with these developments, but professional momentum and financial